So we have some roguelike talk here today. I'm going to be speaking obviously very generally, but some of it is taken from comments, reviews, so on and so forth, in all games, not just World of Horror, as we get medical history. Yeah, we'll run Azel. I don't want to run Aaron because, as you may have noticed, based on the thumbnail, we will be using a custom item, but right after that, basically explaining how I made this custom item and what my plans are moving forward on World of Horror custom content, aside from game dev stuff, because that's taking most of my time. And yes, just really quickly, we're probably going to be playing the next few episodes with custom characters we played before. I literally just span a wheel and just decided to pick a character at random, but I just realized we're on Azal. But for timestamp's sake, let's get into it as we get into Azal. I am going crazy. So, let's reset the run really quickly and move on. Really quick note here. I think the reason, well, other than just variability and crashing, I think the reason why the game is crashing at times when I'm reloading is because I am choosing, I think I was on medical history, right? Is because I make changes and then I immediately reset the game. That can cause some loading things, okay, but this is just my speculation at this point. I don't know if it's actually what's happening. But yeah, let's get into Azal medical history, random item stats, custom character. And if that wasn't the backstory, then so be it. But yeah, we picked a random character, and here we have our order ticket. Not really like fancy thing. Actually, I should have made these edges jagged, but I was getting really tired. So yeah, and this is a really mean thing to say. We do not take responsibility for pain, but. So, gonna talk about roguelikes, but also right after talking about the order ticket, which as a soft rule, I'll use it once every mystery. Now, it's not infinite, so what this order ticket actually does is there are five outcomes. It can give me, the first three simple ones are, it can give me a soft drink. I'm not gonna talk about Lighthouse stuff. It can give me a soft drink, a bottle of water, or a can of Eldsoft, which is a custom item I made. Otherwise, there's a chance for it to increase Doom by 2, and it'll give me a specific message for it. I also tried to make it an in-chat message, but it just gives me a message outside. It just sucks me out of the UI instead, but that's fine. I just wanted something to work, or it can just disappear from my inventory completely with a different message. So, yeah. I was gonna do that as a so I made this item as a preface to doing other stuff, and also, you might not see it because I don't have anything tied to it, but these options are trying to mess with variables that I am making. So that's something you can do with the perm plugin. You can make variables for yourself, and this will also tie into the talk about roguelikes in a moment. If for no other reason than a few choice comments that I saw and that I was kind of ruminating about, but otherwise. What I do need to focus on are these next mysteries. So scissors, painting, footage, labyrinth, and phantasms. So footage first, scissors second, and then labyrinth third. Good. We have our plan of action. But, yeah, so I wanted to try to set up variables because then you could set up events. I think the main thing that would be a bit tricky to do because I haven't been testing Lighthouse events. I don't know if those are still bugged in the perm plugin, but, and if anyone involved doesn't know what I'm talking about, because I think I mentioned it in a very earlier episode, but I mention it now because it's been a while. I won't have you searching through my videos just to suffer. So, what's apparently happening is that I'm making Lighthouse events, and they're not showing up, so that was already a red flag, but I was like, okay, maybe it's just the icons that are bugged. I know I'm linking correctly, or maybe I think I'm linking correctly, but the most important part is that when I get to the Lighthouse to test, yeah, the game crashes. So the strange thing is that when I use the demo character, also I didn't visit the mansion twice. When I use the demo character, the Lighthouse events work just fine. Now this happens whether or not I leave the Lighthouse events random or I force them. So yeah, that's what the issue I was running into. Also pain. So I forgot to grab a weapon. That's my fault. I guess we're gonna enter scissors like this, but I don't really. Oh, we have a police revolver. What am I talking about? And 8 bullets, but. There's still an issue here, but yeah, so I wanted to set that up, and then I talked about Lighthouse events because if I set a variable, say through an item, or just an event in general, that would probably be the most basic way, then I can use that variable in a Lighthouse event. Therefore, because I think you can link events to Lighthouse events too in the perm plugin. Ow, my hand. Which would allow for a lot more creative things. Now, as we get into the talk of, because there's not really much else to talk about. If you have any questions about my custom item, or if you just want to correct me in certain bugs that may actually not exist because I messed up something, or you possibly know the answer, then feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I think for the other 99.999% of the audience, as I missed these attacks left, right, and center, I mean, there's 75%, but you don't know what I'm talking about. That's why I'm explaining this. What you can do with the perm plugin here. So, yeah, as we get into the other, the rest, basically closing out this order ticket. Yeah, there's a lot you can do with the operands available and the logic available. But operands and logic, I mean, like, being able to use if-else statements is a very powerful thing. If you add in anyone, whether you're making a plugin or a game in general, if you allow a player or modder or whoever the case, control over logical statements like if and while. And for those who don't know programming, basically you can make things decide based on things. So say if I have this medical kit and instead when I say use, I say if you have 1 injury, give me 4 bandages. Otherwise, else, in this case, that's the syntax here. Else you get 2 bandages, sorry. And so being able to make logical, that's why we call it logic like that. I think there's a specific word. So actually I have a I have a degree in computer programming. I'm tripping over my words, but you get what I'm trying to say here. Being able to do things like that. So while you are in the second mystery, every time you take stamina damage, it's increased or decreased by 1. Things like that are very powerful to give, especially to the modding scene of a game. And in World of Horror's case, if we are ever allowed such a thing like that, that will increase the power of making custom content. That's not the correct phrase to say, but you get what I mean. And then right after that would be basically being able to allow people to create things at their will, but then that involves not having the, not having the modder do things, but making it so that the modder doesn't accidentally mess with something they don't mean to, also pain. So, we have to heal stamina here, funny enough. Are we going to be okay here? The unfortunate thing is I actually threw the empty bottle in the storage. So, if we are in timeline A, we might be in a bit of trouble. What's our thing here? Threat of fate. That's not going to help me much. Okay, hold on. I need to focus for a moment. I could just use this order ticket again, but I'm going with my soft rule of you only using it once. I probably should have limited that to twice. But if it just disappears immediately, it would not have been a good item to use. But otherwise, 5 strength. I can go for that. I might as well go for this. Yeah, and again, giving players or modders the ability, nice 60% miss twice, by the way, the ability to work with logic and then basically opening the door to making, even if it's just custom items, that would be already pretty powerful. Also, that's right, we're on medical history, so pain. But man, are we going to be able to fight this Scissor Lady? I might have to go for the regular Scissor Lady here. Oh my goodness, 60% misses all the time! I'm just going to go with the whole story here. Do I even get to do this? I'm just going to gamble. At this point, my RNG is so bad, back-ended RNG has to save me. Okay, it did. I don't remember what thingy I'm on, so I might as well try look for it here. I probably should have looked for another spell. Hold on, I need to make sure I don't die, if for no other reason than for the length of this video. We are on timeline B, never mind, but we'll keep this lump of flesh with us, just in case. 5 claps is the guess, and off we go. But yeah, it's very powerful. So the perm plugin, basically, the perm plugin would be where I would want World of Horror's custom modding scene to be at this point, if not earlier. But obviously, the developer has their own troubles and things to do in real life. Not that that's an excuse. I've talked about this before, but just to simplify it, also, I need to run from this as well. We can't run. Do we have a thingy? We have a swollen joint. That's why we can't run. Well, I forgot about that. So I guess we will do what's best. We can throw the empty bottle. You might as well. But that doesn't look well. I was like, why can't I run? I know I'm not on a attack run. It's because I have a swollen joint injury that prevents me from running. I think this is actually 9 damage, by the way. So it should be 9 damage. Okay, good. We get an occult diary for our trouble, but as long as our rests stay okay, it's fine. We want bandages, by the way, so that we can get rid of that. And maybe if we get burns or something, we can take care of that with bandages as well. But otherwise, which is kind of funny lore-wise, because you're already covered in bandages when you have the burn injury, and then you use more bandages. It's like, oh, the burns went away. But anywho, moving on. I know I'm coming. Hold on. Had a cough in real life, but let's do our 5 bows. We might actually die. Well, no, we have the lymph of flesh. No, it should be fine. But yeah, otherwise, again, it's a valid piece of criticism. Basically, more should have been done with World of Horror. 5 claps in a row is our ritual. I'm very lucky. Now, we have Azal, which I completely forgot, but we'll deal. It's because the item, yeah, the items in inventory. I was like, 6 Doom, that can only be the items in inventory. It could have been 60 experience, but anywho. Not that I was looking. Also, I should have used the order ticket here. Never mind, the ticket disappears from our fingertips. So we only got to use it twice. I mean, I know I'm using a soft rule. I didn't need to program it that way, but I might as well try it out. And specifically what I did for anyone interested, just to close this topic out, is that I basically ran a pick logic. So perm plugin allows you to mention a syntax called pick. And essentially it's a function, or it allows you to pick, as the word means, among a few options, whether it's 2 options, 3 options, 4 options, or in this case 5 options. And 3 of them grant an item, 1 of them increases Doom by 2, and then 1 of them just makes the item disappear, which, again, is very powerful. If that exists in base World of Horror, that would make it very powerful. But anywho, not really much else to say. If you have any questions about basically perm in general, I'll try to answer. I'm not involved in its development or World of Horror's development in any way, so But the reason this is kind of relevant to what I wanted to talk about roguelike wise, as well as I need to rest here, is that so I've seen some topics about roguelikes, or comments, reviews, so on and so forth, about roguelikes in general, and I kind of thought about it by myself, but it kind of got me thinking about what's kind of valid and what's not valid to talk about, not just in the realm of roguelikes. We can talk about this generally, but I'll mention specific examples, because at this point, I think it's warranted. Also, pain, because I realize we're in Labyrinth, and we're about to level up, but we don't get to do stuff, so I guess we're just going to brace our way and hope for the best. So as we autopilot here, so specifically, just for World of Horror immediately, we'll mention that World of Horror maybe doesn't have the strongest story. I mean, compared to other games that I know, nice cut artery, by the way. It does. Oh, that's right. I just realized in this long boss fight we have medical history. We can't do much about that though. But I think one specific thing was that it's the development time was obviously a big one, and that's, you know, it is what it is. Objectively speaking, it's a very long dev cycle. There were promises made, and it's been years now. And then, yes, the developer has a good excuse, but we can tie this into a game I played before, where Princess Maker 2, Regeneration. There are problems with that game, but there are parts that do stand out and do very well, I might add. I think one specific part, I mean, one for sure, is the translation. By the way, I think we're going to die here. So, even if we use this, we have trouble with our reason. But the rest of the game does have technical problems. That's something I put in my own review, but as we consider what we can do with our lives here, another specific example, and I'm usually mentioning games that I played, but I'll mention some that I haven't played. For, say, you know, Dwarf Fortress, people are still running into performance issues, even though that game basically just runs on ASCII. It's like, and that's just the nature of the game itself. So for those who don't know Dwarf Fortress, I think, you know what, we'll do another run, why not? I have a lot to talk about, and I don't want to forget it next time. I don't know if there's actually any way out of this encounter. No, there is not. So, I guess we go for a dodge and hope for the best. Yeah, we can at least guarantee this dodge. If I were greedy, I could go for a strong here. Actually, I will be greedy, because this will allow us desperate prep. We missed the attack, and we missed the dodge, so into our next run we go. Again, I always mention these are soft rules, so even though I died after the second mystery, I'm not going to end the video. But other things there. So dev cycles, specific problems with the games. As to be expected, as we're going to Cthulhu, and I don't remember the backstory, so we'll just set it to random. Is that for, you know, when you're making a comment, a review, a video, if you're making a stream on a game and you have criticism, whether it's positive or negative, you will be, those ultimately, I do believe anything said, typed, read, or written down are subjective opinions. And so again, in the case of World of Horror, the dev cycle is one, the quote-unquote lack of story would be another. But then I ran into a comment that said something along the lines of what was, I'm trying to think, and I'm also trying to paraphrase, because I want to think about the concept in less than the specific comment itself as we get Dexterity Light, Takshi's on Knowledge, Second Mystery, and maybe a Charisma check. Is that I guess the roguelike and replay, there was something negative about the fact that it was a roguelike and replayability, but then you could, the reason why that got me thinking is like, well, isn't that true for especially a lot of more popular games? We'll just say popular games. Because you could say the same. It's like there's nothing interesting or innovative, some word like that. Again, I'm being very generic here, but you get the point, and we're trying to make at this point as we get frogs, feet, scissors. But yeah, we're just gonna take all the left ones first. We'll take scissors first because we start with a weapon. But oh yeah, you could say the same. It's like, well, the thing is, you do the mysteries and World of Horror. So we'll be more specific here because this is more a generalized, more objective opinion. We're gonna go for the scissors, by the way, even though we have foreknowledge and weapon. You go through a set of mysteries and then you go into the lighthouse and oh, that's it, and then that's the game. But you could argue the same of, say, the Binding of Isaac, where it's like, oh, you just go through rooms and shoot enemies here and there. Obviously, it would be more valid to say, hey, in World of Horror, it's more strategy. There's less you do with basically your hand-eye coordination. That's the best way I can put it at the moment. But at the same time, well, then wouldn't that be the case for things like Enter the Breach? Or there's another game I have. Or was it Enter the Breach? I don't think it was Enter the Breach. I'm thinking of another game, but we can use Enter the Breach as well, where you're giving perfect information, and so you're using a strategy. And so you could say you're just going into battles over and over and over again. Yeah, you're doing upgrades, but yeah, you're upgrading yourself into the Breach, but you're still, going through a repetitive phase of like, oh, if the information's perfect, what's the point? And in that case, I would argue, well, what's the point of chess then? And not that that's a negative comment. I'm literally, that's an argument I like to use a lot, but I think it comes from a very logical place. Also, I didn't mean to throw the bat there, but since we've already dedicated ourselves, off we go, I guess. We do have a bottle of water we can throw. But hey, you can say the same for, say, Balatro, where it's like, oh, there's not really a lot of story, even though I think there's a story implied in Balatro. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you're just going through and just, playing with your cards over and over and over again. You could say the same of Vampire Survivors or Mega Bonk. Both games are of the same genre. It's like, oh, you're just playing a stage and going through things over and over again, which is actually closer in line with World of Horror, because in World of Horror, you don't really have permanent upgrades, quote unquote, but you do unlock things permanently, like you do in Vampire Survivors. So that's why that particular comment, it would be more appropriate to be more specific in what you're criticizing. And again, at this point, we're being subjective, but I mean, there's validity in a person's subjectivity in a game. That being said, at the same time, if we're to take a step back and look at the forest for a moment, like World of Horror, I think, in my opinion, is still a successful game. Last I checked, or at least the bare minimum, there are at least 2,000 sales. I'm pretty sure it's a lot more, but again, I'm not involved in development. But let's assume there was only 2,000. Let's assume only 2,000 copies everywhere were sold. I would love, as a game developer, to have sold 2,000 copies of a game. Let me tell you that right now. And whenever I put my games up for any price, if I were, or whether I have done or not, you get the point. We're thinking conceptually here. They're a lot less than World of Horror. I think World of Horror used to be $9 to $12 USD. Now it's $19.99 USD. So yeah, it's done its fair share, basically, success-wise. If for no other reason, yeah, we spent a lot of time here, by the way, but if for no other reason, then yeah, even being able to reach out to at least 2,000 to 4,000 people, and I know I kind of upped the number there, but you get where I'm trying to say it did pretty well. Again, that being said, though, as we return to the actual topic at hand, not even just roguelikes in general, but video games, there are certain things that you can and cannot say about any game, really, but in World of Horror, I would argue back with certain points. Now, again, that's not to say everything that I've read, heard, and seen, they were completely valid to say that, but there are still counter arguments. Again, we can keep going on. Like FTL, you're just playing with the ship over and over again. It does have its elements, and especially you definitely unlock things over every run, but again, it still fits into that line of thinking. It's like, oh, you're just repeating things over and over again. If instead you could say things like, well, yeah, you could say things if it was valid. I don't remember FTL at the moment. I know I played it. It's been like at least a year or two since I played FTL or did my last FTL run. But you could say like they're like the controls of like sending people is a bit clunky. It feels a bit slow. That's again, these are subjective opinions, but those are more basically being more specific in your criticism would help with basically the point you're trying to make. Even if I think there are times, like more than a minority amount of times, there are valid points, but it's not the points that the person thinks they're making, or people think they're making. We do need a rest, by the way. Actually, we have a can of Eldsoft. We'll just use that for the moment. I probably shouldn't have if I had a can of Eldsoft, but it's too late now. So, again, we can keep moving on and on. If I didn't already mention it, say Dwarf Fortress, it's like, oh, you're making a thing over and over. Oh, I did, because I talked about the performance. Not that everyone has performance issues with that game, but you get the point. If you mention if we're staying in the realm of roguelikes, sure. If we step out and say mention other games, I think a funny one that I ran into was and not a game that I'm not familiar with because I don't really play it anymore. Are games like Battlefield or Call of Duty, and it's just like, I think it was pretty much along the same criticism, where it's like, oh, in those games you're just doing the same thing over and over again, and like there's no story. It's like, well, there is a story, and how well it's performed is completely up to player opinion. Not that I'm saying player opinion all thinks one way or the other, but there is at least a story, and how strong it is, again, is up to people's debate. Now, if you were to ask me, yeah, the story is not all there. The presentation of said story is at least okay, but the story itself, like how I guess palatable it is to those looking for a story, so yeah. As for World of Horror story, yes, I think the definitely a valid piece of criticism for World of Horror, as we kind of rewind back to World of Horror, is that yes, it does not have a kind of unified story, but there is a story. It's more, I'll call it like kind of more the implied story, where there are things you can pick up as an overarching theme or overarching story between runs, but again, at that point, you're kind of going on a stretch to say, hey, runs are connected, because you're just going through loops of fighting against old gods. You're basically going through a kind of wish fulfillment. By the way, we need to take feet now. So, and yes, overall, I would say the story to World of Horror is weak. Pushed further, that's not the correct word to use, but it's the best one I have it for the moment. We lost the ticket, didn't we? Yeah, we did. Pushed further by the fact that there was a scenario mode plan, but basically it never came out. Now, again, we're still waiting on the next update, but then we get into the topic of, for anyone who really wants to attack World of Horror, and I don't mean that in a malicious way towards anyone who thinks that way. I'm not trying to be malicious towards anyone like that, but I forgot what I was going to say. It was something along the lines of, yes, that mode or anything, any kind of trying to connect a story is not coming out, basically, in a timely manner, if nothing else. That I can say. Now, what I would add on to that, kind of as a topic, would be the topic of, well, how do I want to say it? Also, we're on an ill-fated run, I just realized, but man, that does mean I need to rest here, because otherwise I will die. We do have some Doom to spare, also largely due in part to Scissors, but, yeah, how do I say it? I had the idea in my mind, but meh. Oh, that's what I was gonna say, and it's not a defense for anyone involved with World of Horror's development, and I would even argue the community is that basically making a story at all. I didn't mean to do that. I completely am autopiloting, by the way. Making a story at all does take a lot of effort and time. Not that that's an excuse, but it does play a factor into basically dev time in general, actually, because if you're making a story for a video game, that's part of video game development still. So yeah, it's a whole process. And again, if you understand the developer's personal story, sure, but again, it is a valid argument to say, well, whether it's a developer, designer, script writer, so on and so forth, even an author in the case of, writing stories here and there, those aren't consumers still have valid criticisms, basically. That's would kind of be more accurate to what I want to say. Again, it may not feel fair, but again, if we're working on an open market here, yes, all right, there are places to note out successes and failures. So the failure here for World of Horror's example would be, yes, the dev cycle is very, very long. The success, however, is that the game came out at all, whether it's early access or the thing. Oh my goodness, we have to run from this. Yeah, we have to run from this. Is that it did, it had a successful boom, and I think it did sell quite a lot of copies, and it did what it wanted to do. Again, it was from what I understand, and I know this kind of runs counterintuitive to basically just releasing a game in general for any amount of capital money, basically, is that yes, when you release a game like this, you're looking for some kind of monetary success. Usually, now I'm not the developer; I won't put words in their mouth, but there's also a publisher. I never want to pronounce the name because I feel like I always get it wrong. I'm just gonna give my attempt though. Ysibrid Games. If I recall correctly, it kind of means like soul or something. But anywho, please correct me if the publisher actually comes across this video. Don't hurt me. I did my best to understand in good faith. I promise. But basically, they're making money is to some degree the whole point. Also, we might as well just go all out here because we're already losing Doom. By the way, our Doom is quite high at the moment. But at the same time, one of the primary goals for World of Horror was basically a love letter to Junji Ito. By the way, I did want to mention on the topic of criticism for World of Horror, I know this might not be fair, and it kind of doesn't make any sense. Oh, that's right, I'm uneducated. I mean, I'd rather take the stamina damage at the moment, but hey. But we do know, and I'm not trying to dunk on this game, but there was basically a game that came out that tried to be World of Horror. And from what I see, it's not going so well. Now, the developer of that game could always, make something good, and I hope they do. But we saw an attempt, and it's like, well, World of Horror only does this and this. I don't either. Something along the lines of, I don't understand why World of Horror did so well when the game is so bad, basically, is the criticism. Or there are a lot of parts that are wrong with World of War, which is a valid opinion, but then not understanding its success is like, well, there is still a game here, and the reason why we have is because we literally have an example of a game that essentially tried to do the same as literally near the same as World of Horror, and again, if it were basically it's kind of the line, and it's not a fair argument, I admit, as we're probably going to doom out here. It's that. Yeah, if it was so easy, basically make World of Horror yourself. And as it turns out, it's not so easy. But at the same time, again, that doesn't lessen the degree of criticism, both positive and negative, or more neutral or negative, whether either of those. Yeah, it doesn't lessen the criticism. But yeah, without further ado, if you want to hear me talk more about this topic for whatever reason, like hear me ramble on, because I pretty much rambled on in autopiloting, feel free to let me know. Otherwise, if you're curious about the Perm plugin or otherwise, or have any corrections to what I did, because maybe you're like, well, Jordan, you didn't do that right, feel free to let me know. But otherwise, as we end this video kind of peacefully, I usually end up screaming at the end of a failed run. Yeah, not going to take up much more of your time. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye!